we missing?
Donnie will not be with us today. He has advised he's out of town and unable to even Zoom in.
Okay. You guys, is Adam with us and Kevin?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
We're here.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, we have everyone except Donnie, so we're in good shape.
Okay. Very good, LJ. Thanks.
Yep. All right, Bethany, do we look good? I'm seeing my feedback loop. There's Seth. Okay, Mayor, I have 3 p.m. If you'd like to start, we are live.
Very good. Thank you, LJ. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the April 8th, 2021 meeting, work session of the Mayor and City Council for the City of Frostburg. It's called the meeting to order. Roll call when you're ready, LJ.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Kevin Grove.
Here.
Commissioner Nina Forsythe.
Here.
Commissioner Adam Ritchie.
Here.
Commissioner Donald Carter. Let the record show that Commissioner Carter has advised he would not be able to attend this meeting. And Mayor Robert Flanagan.
I'm here, LJ. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, start off with fiscal year 2022 budget. Miss Elaine, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. So last month we discussed in detail the draft budget, and we reviewed the objectives of the budget, the various components by fund. So today, I just want to highlight some of the changes that have been made in the budget ordinance that will be presented next week at the council meeting, and just some of the major differences. We won't go line by line again like we did last time. So first of all, I'd like us to refer to the scheduled municipal fees. And just to emphasize again, the real estate tax rate that is being proposed is 70 cents per $100 of assessed value. And we will be required to have a constant yield tax rate hearing that was advertised in the Cumberland Times News. And that hearing will be held next. So the public will have an opportunity to provide feedback regarding the proposed real estate tax rate. The other rate that is changing this year is the personal property tax rate, which the rate that you have discussed and approved at your previous meetings is $1.50 per $100 of assessed value. So again, this would not be effective unless approved as part of the budget ordinance, but this was discussed and the consensus of the mayor and council was to move forward with these rates. The one item I would point out that is no longer in the fee schedule is the city has been charging $5 per account for account information requests in the past for tax and utility balances. And we have removed that fee from the fee schedule beginning in July. It has turned into more of an administrative burden than it has been worth. So the consensus was to remove that $5 fee. That usually comes up when properties are being transferred or there's a refinance. The next change, if you would like to look at on page 2, is regarding the county water rate. As we mentioned last month, the county water rate is recalculated every 3 years. And we did meet with county officials last week, and the county is in agreement with the calculations presented by the city for the rate to be $3.97 per 1,000 gallons. And this is for the bulk delivery to Allegheny County customers. The other change that I would like to highlight, which has not been previously discussed, is a change in the water surcharge rate. In our evaluation of the water fund and our discussions with the county about how capital improvements and repairs at Piney Dam and the water treatment plant would be treated, the discussion came up about whether those types of repairs should be included in the county's water rate or whether we should be reevaluating the water surcharge. And at the meeting that we had, the consensus was that the most appropriate method is to reevaluate the water surcharge rate. And we would plan to do this every 3 years in the same year that we do the county water rate. Now in this year, at our meeting with the county, we said we would propose changing the rate this year, and then we would again reevaluate it next year. Because based on the calculations that are of the number of units that we have to bill, the required debt service that we have for the outstanding debt instruments, and building a reserve for capital repairs, the rate that would actually be needed is higher than the rates are proposed. But the recommendation is that we do a phased in increase of the surcharge rate. And the rate to city customers would not increase at all until the rate for the outlying customers has reached its appropriate calculation. And we looked at the number of billing units in each of these categories for outside city customers, the county customers, and then the county customers that are specifically Eckert. And those Eckert customers are excluded from the Piney Dam part of the debt. So this fee schedule includes that proposed rate increase. And I do have a table later that we can refer to that shows, that calculation. But I just did want to point out that that had not been previously discussed by the mayor and council. And this is a new item in the fee schedule for your discussion. The next change in the fee schedule that I'd like to point your attention to on page 7, and that's at the bottom, and this is some of the police fees. And this is not a change in policy for the police. Rather, it just added some explanatory language that the police felt was more appropriate. It addresses the late fee and then the circumstance when vehicles may be towed. So again, that's not a change in policy, just clarification in the fee schedule. And the police chief has confirmed that that description is correct based on how they handle the fees right now. Next change is on page 8, and that is in regard to the City Place parking lot. As you have discussed at your previous meetings, the City Place lot permits would be sold at a higher rate than the parking permits for all the other city lots. So their fee would be $40 per month or $400 for an annual permit compared to the fees in other lots, which are $20 a month or $200 for the annual fee. And then finally on page 10, this affects the fee schedule for the swimming pool. When the Recreation Commission met, they recommended increasing the fees for the swimming pool. Action of the city administrator in the fee schedule, we have left the fees unchanged compared to last year. Fees lower. It would encourage better attendance at the pool. So we would just like to have the consensus of the mayor and council, whether to leave the fees unchanged or to pursue increased fees as the Rec Commission had suggested. So do you have any questions on the fee schedule before we move on to other elements of the budget presentation?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Okay.
One is whether the water surcharge for out-of-city residents will then, it will eventually reach parity, right? That's what you're saying? With
So
in-city?
it will not necessarily reach parity with the city customers. In this year, it would not.
Yeah, but eventually?
Eventually, the rate for inside city, outside city, and the county customers that are not Eckert, they would all get to the same rate.
Okay,
Eckert would continue to have a lower rate until the Piney Dam portion of the debt is paid off. But yes, eventually the goal is that each customer would bear the same fee.
the other question I had concerned the fees for parking at City Place and what the reasoning is for them being greater than at other city parking lots.
I think those spaces were deemed to be more of a prime parking location. There are certain businesses in that area of town that do not have access to off-street parking, and there are certain provisions that had allowed businesses to have reserved parking spots in the past without paying a fee.
Mhm.
And the goal in the evaluation of the downtown parking was that Elizabeth has contacted business owners in that area, given them the option to indicate how many spaces they would like. And if the number of spaces that are requested is less than the number that's available, everyone would have a space. If there's more requests than spots available, then it would become, I don't want to say a lottery, but there would be a determination of who got the spots. But those spots are deemed to be more of a prime parking spot because of their location compared to the spots, say for instance, on Mechanic Street or behind St. Michael's.
Okay. I think that was it. And we'll discuss the pool stuff as council then.
So what we would need to determine is when we do present the fee schedule next week as part of the budget ordinance, are you comfortable with leaving the rates the same as last year, as Elizabeth has recommended? Or does the council want to have me change these rates?
I'm fine with them the way they are.
I'm fine leaving them alone.
My one, I think what
Ditto
one
for
of the
me. I'm good with it.
one of the things that was discussed with the rec commission was, is it better to just incrementally raise them or leave them the same for a couple years and then have a larger jump? Because the costs of operating the pool still keep going up, especially, you know, with the labor costs.
And it does partially become a consideration of economics. At what point do increasing the rates decrease the attendance and you end up with a larger loss? I mean, the pool has never made money. It is a service to the community. But.
Right. Mm-hmm. So
Yeah, that, I mean, I look at it more that way. You know, I mean, if you keep raising the rates, I mean, $6 to take a swim, you know, it's starting to get high. So, you know, we're not going to make any money off the pool. We just, you know, I know we're just hoping to break even.
Which we won't. But
again, it's a service to the city. You know,
yeah, right. Yes. And I guess the other consideration is that, you know, we had a pandemic year when, and so this is kind of like going to be a little bit more like a back to normal year. So maybe it is best to leave it alone during a year like this. Okay.
We can present these rates, and we always have the opportunity to make an amendment between the April meeting and the May meeting.
Okay.
If there's further discussion on that.
Well, like I said, I'm okay with it. Kevin said, I think he said he was, and the mayor too.
Yeah, personally, I'm okay with it too. I just want to make sure that everybody, considered all the ramifications.
Then, moving away from the fee schedule, I'd like to present to you a condensed summary of the budget. This just looks at it by fund and by department. And for the budget ordinance, we have made certain adjustments so that we come to a point where we have a balanced budget. You will see for both the water fund and the sewer fund, there is a slight net income projected based on this budget. And in the water fund in particular, the fund balance right now is below the target that is established by resolution in 2011 as far as having undesignated fund balance. So we have to move beyond the point of just coming to a break even. We need to have revenues exceeding expenses for a while to be able to build some unrestricted fund balance. So this is a minimal amount at this point, just under $17,000. But we have to move in that direction. In the sewer fund, you'll see the net income is only projected at $1,910. Considering the magnitude of the CSO projects that we do during the year, that small of a dollar amount is really immaterial. Basically, consider that break even. Now, in order to balance the fund in the corporate fund, we did have to include using money from fund balance of just over $157,000. And also in the garbage fund to balance the budget, it would include proceeds from fund balance of $2,225. So for the city as a whole, we would show net income of approximately $18,900. Now the mayor and council and the public have been provided with the detail of the budget, which gives each line item in each fund. So that is available as part of the documents in the work session. So if anyone wants to look at that, they may. I'd like to give you just a summary of the changes that we've made between the draft budget last month and the version that you are seeing today that would be presented for the budget ordinance next week. So first of all, for the corporate fund revenues, there is the calculation of overhead, which shows as an operating transfer in the corporate fund. So that's money coming from the water, sewer, and garbage funds. It's an expense in those funds, and it's a revenue to the corporate fund. That calculation, as we mentioned last month, that changes based on the Public Service Commission formula. So there was minor changes there. And as I already mentioned, we do have to have proceeds from fund balance to balance the budget, to make it come out to zero. Now for corporate fund expenses, the changes that you'll see compared to the draft budget last month, there was an increase to the hotel motel contributions that are listed as tourism. That included the additional requests that you received and approved for discussion for the museum, the Red Cross, and also another event to be held by a private organization. In the public safety budget, we made a slight change to the salaries, Social Security, and pension line items. And that was basically just looking at the prorated period of employment that we estimate for a new officer. We have an officer who is retiring this spring, and the objective is then to hire someone new, potentially an academy candidate, and we just increased the portion of the year that we think that that person would be hired. So we bumped up those budget line items accordingly. We also added a new line item for public safety utilities. Previously, these were all included in the jail and office maintenance line item. And we just thought it would help us to better track expenses to have our utilities in a separate line item. It didn't increase the expense at all. It just broke it out between two different accounts. And the other change in the public safety budget is we restored the $30,000 for the ambulance service. We had not included that in the draft budget, but after discussions with the county, it was determined that the city should include that in our budget. The only change in the public works budget, we increased gas, oil, and grease line item by $1,000 in discussion with the street department supervisor. Just feels with the cost of fuel going up and looking at the fuel efficiency of the current vehicles that we needed to increase that by $1,000. And then in the water fund, we refined our estimate of water service revenue. Once we came to a final conclusion of the rate to Allegheny County, we were able to determine our revenue. So we have that just now at $1.42 million for the year. For water fund expenses, the changes were relatively minor. Again, we mentioned changing the corporate overhead based on that PSC formula. And we failed to remove the cell phone line item in the water supply part of the budget last month, but all those cell phone expenses have been included in communications going forward. And in the sewer fund, the change, again, corporate overhead based on the PSC formula. The one I really want to point out is the water surcharge fund revenues. And this, as we discussed, I've provided a table at the top of the page. So that shows what the current rates are. And these rates have been unchanged for several years. So the proposed rate for inside city customers would not change in this year. The increase that we're proposing for out of city, Eckerd, and the other county customers is basically half of the increase that's needed to get to the reserve that has been discussed and to meet debt service. The water surcharge fund has had a loss for the last 4 years. So for 4 years, the revenues have not been meeting the debt service requirements and the capital repairs. So while these proposed rates would cover debt service, and it would only build potentially a $35,000 reserve in the current year. So it would do an increase per month per unit for outside city customers of 60 cents. The rate increase for Eckerd customers would be $2.30 per month per unit. And for other county customers, the rate increase would be $2 per month per unit. And we have worked with the county on these calculations, and they were supportive of us presenting these rates to you for your consideration. And in the water surcharge fund, the other adjustment we made, a small adjustment to proceeds from fund balance to balance the budget, and then a minor tweaking of the interest expense and debt redemption for the expense side. In the garbage fund, we received a request from Allegheny County to participate in a household hazardous waste collection again next year. They've been doing this every 2 years. And so the request and recommendation in discussions with city administrator were to include $2,000 in the garbage fund budget for this expense next year. We did this 2 years ago, and the city's portion of the expense was about $1,800. So it would require us increasing our revenues using money from fund balance to make that contribution possible. So that's kind of, like the high level flyover of the changes to the budget. Again, you have access to the detail line by line, and I would be more than happy to address any questions that you might have on any of those details. But also if you have a question just on the, the overall highlights of the budget, the summary by fund and department, or these changes that I've highlighted in these 2 pages, I'm happy to address any questions that you might have.
Anybody have anything? Okay, Elaine, I think everybody's pretty satisfied with where we are at this point. Again, as we always say at this time of year, thank you very much for your service and dedication, because I know this is a very, very big task for your office every year. So very much appreciated.
Amen.
You're very welcome. So we would present this next week as first reading. And we will have the constant yield tax hearing.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you again.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, LJ, you want to kick off the discussion items?
Yes, Mayor, thank you very much. First discussion item on the list is in regard to the bird scooters. Elizabeth presented the overview of the bird scooter program to you last month. And at this point, I have some notes from her to update you on this month.
Okay.
The first item is they don't do demonstrations. So I know that's a little bit of a disappointment because I think we were all looking forward to that. Some of the closest places where bird scooters are currently in use are in the Washington, D.C. area and the corresponding Northern Virginia area. So perhaps if we're able to get out and visit some of our favorite places in those areas, we might be able to do our own little demonstration ourselves when we do that. Elizabeth further recommends that due to scooter season being upon us, that we take the time to evaluate this over the next year and possibly make 2022 the inaugural year of scooters in Frostburg. There is a lot going on right now, and she doesn't feel that it's necessarily prudent to jump right into this at this time. So if you feel differently, do please advise. And if you'd like to further discuss, do please.
Anyone have any thoughts?
I think it's probably a good idea because we'd also want them to take the time to select a good manager for the whole program. And if, we rush into it and they kind of get the first person who applies or whatever, it might not be the best person for the job. Because we want to, if we want it to be something that the town is happy with, that sticks around, then the manager is a really important person. The person who goes and collects and enforces and all that. So, and also give them some time to, advertise the whole thing. This is coming. It'll give time for the town to ask all the questions they need and, get their anxieties allayed, at least to a degree. So yeah, it's probably best to ease into it.
Okay. Adam, Kevin?
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm good with it also.
Okay, very good. All right, LJ.
Thank you, Mayor. Next up, we have Chris Hovatter, Director of Public Works, wants to talk to you about the Centennial Hill Pump Station design update. Take it away, Chris.
Thank you, Laura. Just this past week, we received our draft plans for the design that we've been working on for several months for the new sewage pumping station that services Centennial Hill. The existing one is probably about 60 years old. We inherited it when we annexed Centennial Hill, and it's outdated and it's somewhat unsafe, and we need to modernize it as well as replace it. So we've been working on it for a while. I think it's one of the most important projects we can complete in the city at this time. And so we're about 80% design complete. The street department, Tony and Shane and some of the guys that maintain the existing one had a lot of input. We've had field trips to other places where similar stations are being reconstructed. It's a package system. It will minimize bypass pumping. It'd be easy to maintain and should last us long into the future. It's a construction cost of somewhere between $250,000 to $275,000 estimated. And I think the time's right. And I know Elaine and Elizabeth are working hard, and also Laura Michael found some grants. We're looking good to fund it in this upcoming year. I'm hoping that the design will be complete in May and maybe advertised, and maybe it can be as early as July that we could actually start construction on it. So it includes a lot of neat things. It includes some solar options that will assist in the communications with the station. It downsizes the motor because motors are very more efficient today, so there'll be a large energy savings. The force main that delivers the outflow to Shaw Street, most or all of that will be replaced. There'll be a standby generator for reliability, and some other notable attributes. So I'm real excited about it, especially because it's going to improve the safety of operations, which is well needed. So any of the mayor and council would want to look over the plans or more detail of the whole project, I'd be glad to show it to them at any time. So that's pretty much it. Does anybody have any questions at this point?
Nope, I might come in and look at the plans, Chris.
That would be great. That'd
Yeah.
be fantastic. Okay, just let me know and I'll get prepared for you, Nina.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Chris. Next up, we have our Chief of Police, Nicholas Costello, with a building update for 37 South Broadway.
Thank you, Director Bennett. Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Good to be here with everyone. Just have a brief update for you on the Municipal Center project at 37 Broadway. We had our regular meeting earlier this week with the contractor and the architect and some of those folks. It's coming right along. We are again reassured that we will be able to move in on April 26th. So that is still the planned move-in date for the police department. I believe the city hall offices may be a day or so after that, but we're looking at that week. A few little snags along the way that we again do not think will interfere with the move at all. They're having trouble getting the elevator working. The contractor is on top of that with the elevator folks, but they think if there is not a functioning elevator when it's opened, as long as they keep it secured and off limits, that will not in any way interfere with getting the occupancy permit. So they do not anticipate any issues there. Paving date was scheduled for April 1st, so that could potentially be any day from here on out. We would see the lot paved. And the ALC panels, kind of the facade type area are forthcoming. So that'll be wrapped up here eventually, but we don't have a solid date on that quite yet. So as you can see, a lot of that is just sort of aesthetic and those sorts of things. I mean, the building as a whole, if you haven't been through it, looks very, very finished. It looks beautiful. I think most everybody knows I am extraordinarily excited about it. I go up there about every day. Cannot wait to be in the new police station and the city hall offices, the meeting room. Just the whole place is absolutely beautiful. I think it's something we'll all be able to be very, very proud of, that the mayor and council can be extraordinarily proud of, and something we can all just be happy that we were a part of. So I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have, but those are the basic updates I had for you.
Okay. Chief, thank you for your time today. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Anytime.
Next up, we have Commissioner Forsythe with a tree planting proposal for the Springs by Trout Unlimited.
Thank you. Seth is here from Trout Unlimited. You're still on, right? Aren't you, Seth?
Yep, still here.
Great.
Yes, welcome, Seth.
Thank you.
So Seth volunteered to give a kind of a brief overview of the tree planting proposal, and he was asking for the city's support to send a letter of support to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, who's providing the funding.
Okay.
That is, if it goes through.
Yeah, correct. So can I share my screen? Is that feasible? You guys don't have a problem with it?
I have this that I can share, Seth. Does this suit your purposes?
Yeah, that should work fine.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
So yeah, thanks a lot for letting me sit in and just talk about this. Frostburg's been a good supporter of Trout Unlimited over the last couple of years with the stream restoration work we're trying to do in Sand Spring Run, as well as just tree plantings and stuff over in the city park. So As far as brook trout habitats go in the mid-Atlantic region, the Savage River watershed is considered to be probably one of the best documented brook trout populations across the mid-Atlantic and definitely within the state of Maryland. So it's a focal area for Trout Unlimited, as well as for a number of the other funders that put money towards these types of projects. And that includes the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, which has a specific program geared towards brook trout conservation through its Small Watersheds Grant Program. And I can send, if anybody's interested, I can send Nina afterwards a request for proposals for this current grant. So as a part, to back up, Trout Unlimited is planning on submitting a proposal for around $300,000 to the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, which will include about 65 acres of tree planting across the watershed, 24,000 trees, several culvert replacements, some in-stream habitat improvements elsewhere in the watershed. So it's kind of a holistic approach to brook trout conservation across the watershed. Specific to this parcel here, so my understanding is in 2017, the city purchased this property and kind of closed bids, sold a section of that, and Chris ended up purchasing the parcel here to the, I guess that would be to the west. So we, Nina and Chris and I walked the property a few weeks ago, I guess it was, it's been since that, and kind of, just discuss what the conservation needs were on the property and, a good sort of middle ground for what Chris was liking to see or his sort of vision for his parcel there. We did actually see, I don't know if you can see that the Savage River is kind of the larger stream that runs to the north of, to the top of this image. And then there's a tributary that runs south through the, or that comes into it there. Yeah. So we actually did see brook trout inhabiting that stretch right in the tributary. So that was really cool. So the proposal, these areas are kind of, divided based on riparian would mean kind of close to a stream or adjacent to a stream, and upland would mean away from the stream. And so the total planting area would be about 2 acres. Mm-hmm. Would be looking at planting around 200 trees per acre. And we, in conversations with Chris, he liked the idea of being able to kind of from his planned house, be able to see over and kind of still be able to view the fields there. So that was easy. That's an easy fix by just selecting tree species and shrub species that don't necessarily grow that high. What we would do is we would request around $15,000 from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation to pay for the trees. So the city wouldn't need to pay any funds towards this project at all. And then I would work with Nina to coordinate volunteer recruitment from Frostburg State as well as city residents to participate in planting the trees, which would be around 400 trees. That seems like a lot of trees, but with around 20 folks, it can work quicker than you would think. And we can work with partners to use an auger to kind of pre-dig the holes. Oftentimes that's what we'll do for potted stock trees. We'll pre-dig the holes so that the volunteers don't necessarily have to do that much digging. I guess I'm happy to answer any questions. I have put together a letter of support. They're super helpful in just showing that the city is aware of the project and excited about it and supports it for the grant proposal. And in addition to that, I would just say that, having spoken with the Maryland Forest Service, who I know you guys are have a forest stewardship plan with for the property, if this proposal doesn't end up going through, there are other funding sources to pursue because this is in the Savage watershed and it's on protects a water supply, I think it would be really easy to fund this project from a number of different sources. Cool.
Thanks, Seth.
Yeah, thank you.
Looks good. Thank you, Seth.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that, as this is really close to the springs and wells, it would provide additional protection to the water in the purity of the water that we depend on. I mean, it supplies, that particular part supplies approximately, Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, approximately 40% of the water that we use. And it's the purest part for sure. So the trees there will be a mix of trees as far as I understand. It won't be like all the same kind of tree, which is also something that will help with, attracting different types of wildlife in the area. So it's also good for, wildlife conservation. And it won't be those tiny little saplings that need to have the little protectors around them. There'll be larger trees in pots that will then, with larger root balls. So they will be more likely to survive, and they won't need to as much follow up, to remove the tree shelters and so forth. The last thing to bring up is whether we would like to have everybody, the mayor and the whole council, to attach their name to the letter of support, if everybody's okay with that.
I'm fine with it.
I think it's a good program.
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, cool. Is there anything else you wanted to say, Seth?
Oh yeah, and thanks for following up with some of that information that I didn't say.
Sure.
That going forward with the tree shelters, they're plastic. It requires some maintenance that may then fall on the city. So using potted stock would kind of remove some of those long-term burdens that, trying to make it easy on everyone to do the right thing but not have to cost a lot of time and money. So.
Sure.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, we'll send the letter of support, have everybody's name on the letter of support, and hope that you get all the funding you need.
Okay. Well, thanks. Really appreciate your guys' time.
You bet.
Seth?
Take care.
Yeah. Okay. Take care.
Thank you. Next up, general discussion, mayor and council.
Does anyone have anything for the good of the order this afternoon?
I want to know how the Arbor Day planting went.
Trees are in. They're already starting. The leaves are already coming out on them. They look gorgeous.
Oh, sweet. Did you get any photos?
Yeah, we got photos. We also got the American flags up and the new Arbor Day flags up. Becky was telling us that there were only actually 8 cities in Maryland that participated this year, which I know we're not real happy about hearing that low number, but actually 5 of the 8 were from Western Maryland.
Oh,
How
that's
about
great.
that?
And this is actually our 7th year of being a tree town in Maryland. So again, we should be very happy.
Yes.
That's great. I did notice item number 5 is adjournment, and following adjournment is reminders and upcoming meetings and events. And I do have rather a string of upcoming meetings and events to discuss before we adjourn. And I just wanted to quickly throw that in there. I realize there may be some other discussion points among mayor and council, but Mayor, if you don't mind, let's not adjourn until I can go through those
Sure. No
dates
problem.
and times. Thank
LJ,
you.
take it away. Go ahead and do what you
Oh,
need to
thanks
do.
very much. Okay, so starting next week, Wednesday, the 14th, we have the Planning Commission meeting. We meet at 7 p.m. Wednesday evening, and it will be a virtual meeting. Then on the 15th, we have Mayor and Council at 7 p.m. Have we made a decision as of yet if we're going to go in person or virtual for that one?
I think our goal was to try to do it live and live in color with the doors and windows open.
Yeah,
I
that
know
is
my-
what we decided last month.
Okay.
We do need to make sure then that information goes out to all of the people that announce the meeting.
We will. We definitely will, and we'll make sure we follow up with you on that. Then the following week on Tuesday, we'll have a green team meeting. And this is a big week, particularly for the Green Team and all of us here in Frostburg who are dedicated to being environmentally friendly. So Green Team meets Tuesday the 20th. Thursday the 22nd is Earth Day. And Saturday the 24th is Beautify the Berg in the morning, which I've been involved in some of the planning for that, and it's going to be a great event. It's a little different this year because we can't gather in large groups, but the Berg is going to get beautified, and that's going to be fabulous on Saturday morning, because then on Saturday afternoon we have the Spring Arts Walk. And again, that's going to be a little different this year because we have to be careful in terms of gathering and shopping and enjoying the things that we have in our great downtown. But I think it's great that that's going to happen. Then that following Monday, April 26th, beginning at 7 a.m., a scaffolding company from downstate will be on the block of West Main Street where the Dante's building is located. And I believe I briefed you on this situation a good bit last year. And due to the pandemic and different various items that held up the project, the parapet at the top of the Dante's building could not be repaired last year. But that's going to start Monday, April 26th at 7 a.m. with scaffolding being erected in front of the entire facade of that building. It will impact the sidewalk and it will impact the parking for the entire block. The hope is once the scaffolding is completely built, there will be a safety tunnel for pedestrians to travel underneath, so they can walk the length of the block underneath the scaffolding. But while it's being constructed, that won't be possible. So in conjunction with Maryland Department of Transportation and State Highway Administration, permits are in place for some rerouting of pedestrian traffic while the scaffolding is under construction, and then barriers for the closure of that parking aisle. The reason the parking aisle is going to be closed is because that's where materials will have to be stored, particularly the man lift, the bricks, the mortar, the mixing, everything you can imagine that would go into a project like this. So knowing that that's going to be a huge burden for business owners on that block, not just the south side, but the north side also. We've worked with the police department, and thanks very much, Chief, to provide free parking in the Mechanic Street parking lot directly behind that building. So there will be close parking access. We've coordinated with the fire department because an apparatus placement plan would be required if something should happen. And notifications are going out in all media outlets, including the Cumberland Times News, Facebook, all the social media outlets that we use, and all the internet outlets that we use. And personalized letters are going to business owners, and all appropriate agencies are being contacted as well. So it's a big project and it's taken a lot of planning. It has to happen. You may recall it was the storm that tore up the trees at the Spruce Artisan Village in Grantsville that also impacted this building. So that storm did a lot of damage between Garrett and Allegheny County. So it has to be repaired, and fortunately it's going to be. It's going to be a big project, and we expect it to take 3 to 4 weeks. So hopefully there are no surprises. It stays on its target projected dates, and we can get it done in short order. I just want to give everybody the update on that, because I know we're going to hear, it's going to be hard for the business owners. It's going to be hard for people to navigate downtown while this is going on, but all the safety stuff will be in place, and hopefully we can get it done quickly.
I have 2 questions, LJ. The first is, how long is it projected to take to actually build the scaffolding?
2 to 3 days.
Okay.
And same for the tear down.
And then during that time, when the sidewalk and the parking spaces are all closed off, does that mean that people will not be able to enter the adjacent businesses? Like, will they not be able to enter? the
No, all
Princess, for
ingress
example?
and egress for the buildings. Oh, people will be able to enter, absolutely.
Okay.
There may be a little bit of disruption for the entrances at the Dante's building while the scaffolding is being built, but absolutely that egress from those upper story residential units must be open.
Oh, right, yeah, sure, yeah.
Okay, LJ, I have a question for you also. I noticed in reading the letter, I don't want there to be any confusion that in that free parking lot, that there'll still be no parking from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. And I didn't see anything. And I can expect we'd have people saying, hey, that's free parking. I parked all night there.
Thank you for noting that, Commissioner. That's an excellent recommendation, and I will update that. I did make one update in that line about free customer parking because I didn't want people to get the impression that they could just start, using that as their personal residential parking. The intent is for, not to deter the businesses by taking away their customer parking. We want to provide that so they can continue to function as normally as possible.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Good point.
So that's everything I have for the last couple weeks in April. Spring's really cranking up and we're getting busy. I don't think we've ever really slowed down, but I am done talking for this afternoon, and I thank you for your patience with me. And if there's anything else,
You did a good job, LJ.
Yes, very
thanks,
good.
Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Upcoming things, another thing that just wanted to make mention of so the council is aware of, that we do have a meeting with State Highway also on Tuesday, the 20th, looking at Big Savage Mountain signage and some
good.
safety issues. So I'll keep everybody apprised of how that transpires, okay?
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else?
Nothing else.
Okay, it's 3:50, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.